The first recognition I remember as a child, saying something that seemed to amuse everyone around me. Quote, I am caught between opposing conflicts. End quote. My brother laughed. To him it sounded like a strange sentence, too heavy, too abstract, too grown up for a boy who should have been thinking about games, not contradictions. Perhaps I didn't fully understand what I was saying, but I remember the feeling behind the words with unusual clarity. It was not confusion in the ordinary sense, and it was not simply indecision. It was the awareness of being pulled, of standing in a space where two forces met, where neither side could fully claim one, and yet both demanded attention. Looking back, I see now that this moment was not trivial at all. It was a first encounter with what would later come to be understood as the structure of human experience itself. This has resulted in the Nat Sutra, the acronym recognizing the extremes of fundamentalism on one side, fundamentalism universalism on the other side, and a balanced point in the middle. We are all in one way or another standing between opposing tendencies. Some of us resolve the tension by collapsing into one side, choosing certainty over complexity, declaring this is the way. Others dissolve the distinction altogether, flattening the differences until everything appears the same. We're all one? No labels, no divisions. But a few remain in that narrow, perhaps uncomfortable space between, where the pull of both sides is felt. Neither is denied, and it is here that something begins to awaken. The between is not merely a place of conflict, it's a place of possibility. In time, I would come to see that being stuck in one position reflects inertia, tamas, a kind of inner heaviness that resists movement. Swinging endlessly between positions reveals a restless energy, rajas, that seeks resolution but can't find it. And finding balance, sattva, seeing clearly, without collapsing into either extreme, brings a sense of harmony, a sense of steadiness of vision. But even this balance is not the final step. For there comes a moment, rare, subtle, and often unexpected, when one can step beyond even the need to balance. When the very structure of opposition begins to dissolve, what remains is not a compromise between sides, but a freedom from the necessity of the sides altogether. This is a lived experience. That childhood sentence, laughed at and quickly forgotten by others, quietly reminded me, quote, I am caught between opposing conflicts. It was not the conclusion of a thought, it was the beginning of an inquiry. And from that inquiry emerges the central insight of this work, the Nat Sutra. That life is not merely about choosing sides, nor denying them, but about learning how to see, balance, and ultimately transcend them. This is the journey of the Nat Sutra, a path toward restoring balance in a world of extremes and discovering the freedom that lies beyond them. I remember another moment from childhood, simple on the surface, yet somehow filled with meaning. My older brother, 4 years older, ahead of me in many ways, in temperament certainly, was strong-willed, drawn to action, to the outer world, to testing limits. I, on the other hand, lived more easily in imagination, drawn to music, quiet reflection, nature, to something I couldn't yet name. One day, Sitting in the upstairs hallway, we were playing with a flashlight. I held the light very close to the wall. The beam became sharp, concentrated, almost piercing in its clarity. The circle of light was small but precise. Its edges defined its presence unmistakable. I said to him, quote, "This is what it's like when you're kind to people, when you try to tell the truth," end quote. Then I slowly pulled the flashlight away from the wall. The light spread outward, losing its edge, becoming diffused and indistinct. The brightness was still there, but it no longer revealed things clearly. Its power was diminished, not in quantity, but in quality. And I said, this is what happens when you do the opposite. At that time, I didn't think of this as philosophy. I didn't know the words for ethics, for dharma, for yoga, or the subtle workings of the mind. I only knew what I saw and what I felt. Looking back, I see that this small act contained a principle that would reveal itself again and again throughout life. When one strives to live truthfully, when one acts with care and honesty and attention, the mind becomes like that focused being, clear, steady, chitta vritta nirodha, capable of seeing things as they are, the gem. When one lives carelessly, however, or in contradiction to what one knows is right, things begin to scatter. The same energy is present, but loses its coherence. Perception becomes blurred. Clarity gives way to confusion. The light doesn't disappear, it simply loses its alignment. In time, I would come to understand that this alignment is not merely moral, it's existential. It shapes how we see, how we know, and ultimately how we experience reality itself. And just as the beam can be focused or diffused, so too it can be stilled altogether, returning not to darkness but to a deeper, more pervasive light that is not dependent on direction or distance. But that understanding would come later. At that moment, in a quiet hallway, with a simple flashlight and an older brother looking on, something essential was already being seen.